Remoan! What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. We are going to take a look at a few clips from yesterday's Jeremy Vine show. On the panel he had Brexit supporter James Max, Glamour model Nicola Mclean, and pop group member James McVey discussing a range of topics, but we are going to focus on Brexit obviously, and of course the Remoaner meltdown after Boris Johnson instructed Her Majesty the Queen to suspend Parliament since he is being called a dictator now, among other things. In these clips we have callers being mocked by the panel and questions about civil unrest if Brexit is cancelled, so let's check it out.
Thinks Boris is just following our constitution.
So again, you don't think he's a dictator, Holly?
No, I don't, and I think any suggestion is absurd. I think what he's done is exhaust a perfectly legitimate function of our constitution, and as far as I'm concerned, he's behaving like a leader should. He's listening to 17 million people, and people like Gina Miller, Jeremy Corbyn, Owen Jones need to go away and stop throwing their toys out their pram. Well,
when you say go away, you're talking about basically 70% of Parliament, which is, quite a big slab of our democracy, which is, we don't have a written constitution, but that is part of what puts us together as a nation, isn't it? They can't just go away.
So then they should be well informed of the practice of the democratic vote. As your previous caller said, one side wins, one side loses.
James McVey, hang on, we've got a vamp coming in on that.
Speaking about being well informed, but I argue that the people that voted Leave were not well informed, because this situation is not what anybody envisaged or wanted to be. So, I don't know if you can say we need to be more well informed. Maybe we should have been well informed from the start.
But isn't this situation exacerbated by who or what is there?
Hang on, Holly, wait a minute. Holly has priority here. Holly.
Yeah, sorry, I was just saying, I think Theresa May dragged it out for too long. Boris is the man to get the job done. I think him and Jacob Rees-Mogg are just the most perfect partnership, and they're going to do great things.
OK, Holly, thank you.
Holly from London rightly points out what Boris is doing does not make him a dictator. Far from it. Parliament is prorogued every year usually to allow for a Queen's speech, which is exactly what Boris Johnson called this one for. It's nothing out of the ordinary. The Queen's speech also helps him defend what 17.4 million people voted for in 2016, because we have undemocratic traitors in Parliament who serve the EU, not the United Kingdom. Holly then goes on to point out commie cumbuckets like Owen Smollett, Commissar Corbynov and Gina Miller need to fuck off if they don't like the decision made by the British public. Brexit will not prevent them living in communist states if they wish. I hear North Korea is nice this time of year. I'm really not sure what Jeremy Vine intended with his response to Holly there though, since the MPs in Parliament voted for Article 50, which set out the terms of Brexit. They voted for a no-deal Brexit, so 70% of them being Remainers is irrelevant. They enacted democracy when they voted for Article 50 after we instructed them to get us out of the EU. It's really not that hard to work out. How these idiots get jobs as television presenters is beyond me. I've had shits with more brain power and common sense than these mainstream media hosts have. All these MPs who voted to invoke Article 50 and now changed their mind should be deselected for going against what the British people told them to do. There is nothing more to say about it. Holly saying they need to be well informed is silly though. They all know more than we do, they just don't care. They will try to push their Remoaner agenda no matter what you try to teach them. Remember, Holly, you can't teach stupid. The Remain supporting pop star then decides to pipe up with nonsense about Leave voters being stupid or ignorant of the truth. I would love to know what he thinks Leave voters have not been informed about before voting to leave. We have yet another person trying to tell Leave voters what they did or didn't vote for. They voted to leave at the end of the day, mate. The ballot paper said Leave or Remain. That's it. They voted to leave. They didn't vote to leave with a deal. They didn't vote to remain with a deal. They voted to leave. The means was not for the voting public to decide at the end of the day. Parliament took that decision itself after Gina Miller forced Theresa May to get Commons approval for Article 50 that states in law we leave on October the 31st. If Gina Miller had not brought her case and the government alone invoked Article 50 without Parliament, then Remoaners would have a right to complain. But since 498 MPs from across the House voted to invoke Article 50, not just Tory MPs, they all need to pipe down. It really annoys me that Brexiteers on these panels never point that shit out. Holly did state that Boris and JRM are going to do great things, which of course we all hope they will. I think, personally, if Brexit gets delayed again, it won't be the government's fault. I think it will be the Remoaner MPs betraying us once again. Let's hope I'm wrong, and Boris can get us over the line with Jacob Rees-Mogg's help.
Storm!
We're going to speak to Dawn now from Bristol, who thinks Boris is just being very divisive.
Dawn? You think he's, I don't know if you want to say the word dictator, but divisive, you reckon?
No, I don't think he's a dictator as yet. I think he has been very divisive. I think there's a few points that the panel, some have got and some haven't. James annoys me. Sorry, James, but you do.
No, but it got to James.
The referendum was advisory.
I think
what's that? Dawn, are you telling me that I annoy you?
Yes, you
Thanks
do,
to
James.
us, Dawn, I'm with you.
Oh, this is good news, Dawn, because the thing is, you see, you voted to remain, I bet, didn't you?
I did, but I respect the result. The trouble
you don't.
You don't. Can I just say, Jeremy, there's always this thing about Remoaners. No, there is a very big difference of respecting the result, but actually the result...
Like you're Remoaning to me, Dawn. Remoan! That's what's happening here, Dawn.
Okay, that's, just to be clear, that's James Max speaking and not me, in case you thought I'd suddenly turned into a ghost. But, Dawn, I don't know where to go with this. What do you think, Storm? Thank you, Dawn. I appreciate that. This thing about it being advisory, we were told if we vote for it, it happens. I think that's nonsense.
Well, we heard from Dawn in Bristol there, who thinks Boris Johnson is not yet a dictator, but he might be soon. In reality, though, her concern is attacking the Brexiteer James Max because he annoys her. Likely because he speaks the truth, and she does not like that. She is a typical snowflake Remoaner who makes the completely ridiculous claim that the 2016 referendum was advisory. Of course, forgetting that David Cameron said this.
Okay, you activate Article 50.
You're going to activate that immediately.
It takes
to activate that immediately.
That is what, if British people vote to leave, that's what we should do.
On the 28th of June, you will activate it at the European Council.
Have to do. What would happen next? You have 2 years to negotiate. At the end of those 2 years, you are out, and you have to operate under World Trade Organization rules.
So no, Dawn, you ignorant moron. It was not advisory, as Jeremy rightly pointed out. James completely ignores what she said about the referendum, though, and begins to mock her Remoaning bullshit. This guy is a fucking legend, screaming, Remoan! Remoan! Like he did, though. Even Jeremy Vine was lost for words and in hysterics and just cut her off because she had just been shat on by James there. James absolutely loved trolling her, and so did most of the crowd. That is quality stuff you don't see every day there, guys. Let's move on.
Well, Boris Johnson will have expected, maybe even wanted, fury from his political opponents at Westminster. But something else happened yesterday. Thousands of people took to the streets and more protests are planned today. So you can see them there. This is almost a flash protest because they would have known nothing about the proroguing of Parliament until, well, basically when we were on air yesterday. A petition set up almost immediately after the Prime Minister's announcement aimed at getting him to think again has attracted more than 1 million signatures in less than 24 hours. Did you sign it? Or would you not be seen dead signing it? The country's so divided you can almost imagine this leading to civil unrest.
Well, Jeremy thinks this pathetic petition will lead to civil unrest. I am doubtful for a few reasons. First, we already know Twitter activists are signing it multiple times, so the numbers will be smaller. By how much, we will likely never know. 2, the Queen prorogues Parliament, not the government, so petitioning the government is pointless considering the Queen has already stated Parliament will be prorogued between the 9th and 12th of September. But third, and most importantly, the protesters are a bunch of soy boys and rich college girls who don't know their arsehole from their earroll. It's hardly going to be something the police are going to struggle with, is it? These soy-consuming weaklings are not a threat, let's be honest.
Boris Johnson will have been expecting complaints from Jeremy Corbyn and John Bercow and so on. But protests and petitions are different, aren't they? They come from the real anger of real people. So should he say today, wait, I'm looking at those pictures of those protests and I'm going to rethink and pause on this? Or are actually the protests and the petitions pointless because the government's in charge and this is what they're doing? James is already... You're falling asleep during the protest. You're not even interested.
No, because it's the same old people protesting. It's Owen Jones, who's the Katie Hopkins from the left, just getting all excited.
It's not any celebs. It's nobody we know. It's people.
He was identified on the news as having organised
Actually,
protest.
saying that, that's Barbara Want, who's been a guest on this show. So, yes, you're right.
Yeah, it's all the same old people. And look, I understand. If you voted to remain, I understand understand why you might be cross and why you might want to try and stop it. I get it. But the point is that there are a lot of people who voted to remain, but more voted to leave. And if you go down that route, then we've voted to leave as a nation. Let's get on with it. It's this prevarication and this objection and blocking that is allowing our European friends to think that there is a little bit of light between, do we have to go back and renegotiate? No, because there are enough people there who will stop the process.
Okay,
Jeremy claims these petitions and protests come from real people, which we all know is nonsense. They come from Owen Jones, Femi and the Remoaner MPs like Toe Swinson and Nicola Fishlip Sturgeon. James Max attempts to point that out to him, but Jeremy Vine tries to argue it out before the producers play a clip of a regular he has on the show who is an ardent Remoaner appearing at the protests, so Jeremy Vine is forced to climb down. As if he was ever that naive to think it would be normal people starting these protests and petition. Most people support democracy more than they do Remain, Jeremy. Always remember that. The real world ain't Twitter or the Guardian newspaper's opinion pieces, let me tell you that. James Max rightly points out more people voted to leave, so we need to get on with it. And that is the only thing that people need to remember at the end of the day.
So just going back to the really worrying thing here, we have a country that's basically 50-50, and one side lost the referendum, and one side or the other will lose. It might not be the same side, right? Something's going to happen, and 50% of people are going to be cheesed off. Now, are we grown up enough as a country not to go down the route of the Hong Kong situation, of riots, of civil unrest? Because, Nicola, there's a real worry here, isn't there?
I don't think it will go down the lines of the Hong Kong. Please don't give me that anxiety as well with all of this. No, okay, I don't think as a country we'll do that. But yes, we are going to have a lot of unhappy people. But I think that we can protest and protest like we seen yesterday fairly.
There's one argument that says the biggest danger to civil order is if the people who won the referendum get robbed. So in other words, the lot who are going to be angriest is if we cancel it. We cancel Brexit. Is that right, James?
Well, Jeremy Vine is worried that whatever happens, one side of the debate is going to be unhappy, and that might bring about a Hong Kong-style situation here. Nicola does not think it will, even though people are going to be pissed off, and I would agree with her, providing Brexit is delivered, of course, because if not, what Jeremy Vine has heard will be correct. The protests will be unreal if Brexit is cancelled and democracy is ignored. There will be no way our current parliamentary system could continue. It would have lost all credibility then. Let's be honest, it's already lost 95% of any credibility it had before the 2016 referendum because the MPs are traitorous dogs who serve the EU, not us. They've spent 3 years betraying us as it is. If another betrayal occurs, civil arrest will be inevitable, so let's hope Boris can get it done.
I think, again, we're looking into the future, and I think one of the big problems that we've had throughout this whole discussion and about this whole debate since that referendum result is that we are really bad as a nation at looking into the future. We're not very good at looking beyond our noses. So we haven't been able to predict, and we haven't also been able to see how uncertainty causes problems. And I think it's also very difficult to predict who would be more angry, because I think at the moment, those who voted to remain are very, very angry. You listen to the rhetoric that comes from, whether it's Jeremy Corbyn or Nicola Sturgeon, all these people, seasoned politicians, and even John Bercow, who's supposed to be, but we know that they come from a Remain standpoint. And they're going to be angry. So looking into the future, very difficult to see, but I agree with you. If Remain then won the day, I think arguably those who voted to leave will be more angry.
Yeah, OK, Storm calls.
James Max sits on the fence about it, but I stick by what I said earlier. There will be mass protests. The Remain side are fake angry. It's the left's usual outrage to be outraged. It's Boris and Brexit derangement syndrome at its best. We see by their protests and rallies that not many support their views. Big name politicians from Labour and the Lib Dems put on 3 events with comedians in a Scottish Remain stronghold like Edinburgh, and only 200 people turn up. I've said it many times, people crying on Twitter does not represent real life. These commentators need to remember that. They also need to remember that Brexit supporters will mobilise if they are betrayed. I'm sure people will set up protests all over the place should Brexit be stopped. Well, I'm going to end the video there, guys. I just want to thank the channel's PayPal, Patreon and Subscribe Star members for supporting the channel, along with everyone who watches my videos. Remember to let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Leave a like, subscribe with the notification bell and share this video as it helps the channel a lot, and I will see you all in the next one.
Remoan!